Hey there YouTube, welcome to another black powder update, slightly delayed. There are reasons for it. Firstly, that I was actually, I managed to have a slight injury which turned into quite a major injury and ended up taking up about probably a good 2 weeks and stopped me from painting completely. I think I managed to do maybe 2 or 3 little 20-minute little stints before I was kind of driven off by uncomfortableness. But I did actually manage to do the 2 things that I wanted to do for the original update, and also 1 bonus item. So let's bring in the first thing I did. So here we have a couple or a battery of 12 pounders. So let's just bring the camera up a little bit. There we go. These guns, of course, are Victrix, and they're from the 1804 to 1812 set, which of course was sent to me by mistake. But luckily, of course, they do have 12 pounders in, so I was pretty chuffed to fully utilise these guys. I'm probably at the moment only going to have like the 1 battery. I was thinking of turning the other gun into a half battery and then eventually getting another 12 pounder and making that another battery, but for the moment that's kind of on reserve. It's not really in my plans at this particular moment. Again, I went for a little bit of difference with these guys. Instead of building 2 guns and giving them their full 2 crews, I decided to just use 1 officer figure. So basically both guns have got 4 crew and 1 officer in command, and obviously you can see him here. So let's bring in a little bit closer and I'll give you a closer up look at them. They are, again, beautiful cannon models. So here we have the number 1, I believe. No, number 2, sorry, the Sponger. Here, and the gun is kind of positioned so that, like, these guys are literally, they've just finished reloading, and they're just basically they've just got to take a couple of steps backwards and off to the side, which actually would take them off the base, just to stand by the sort of the wheels of the cannon so that it can be fired. You got the number 1 up here, ready to give the fire order. He's the guy who, of course, fits the fuse and aims the gun. And of course the actual firer himself, who lights the gun. So I'll try and bring you closer in on these guys. Of course these guys are in the slightly older uniforms, apart from the officer, because I utilised my officer from my 1815 pack. And like I said, these guys have all got the older style artillery uniforms, but however, I did read that a lot of French artillery units weren't exactly the masters of A, being issued new kit, and B, actually being bothered to wear it. So where in reality it would be a little bit more realistic to have a kind of like a mixture. It's not too far out of the bounds of reality that these guys would still be in old gear, and I suppose the officer who isn't in old gear could kind of stand for that. We've got the 2nd battery here, obviously the same kind of setup, same sort of position, apart from these guys are just a few steps behind the 1st gun. So obviously these guys are basically about to sort of step back, take 2 or 3 steps backwards and off to the side to clear the gun wheels. And the fire is obviously ready, and the the number one is ready to give his fire order once there and the other two guys are in position. So you can see for the sort of the base, I decided to go for kind of a trodden, muddy but not sodden field. Obviously the wheels of the cannon get muddy, and there's some mud and stuff on their shoes and some smeared up on their trousers and stuff, but it's not to the point where you'd actually like properly sink into the mud. So that is the 12-pounder battery, and I was pretty chuffed when I finished those guys. So that is the first thing that I managed to do this update. So let's get those off to the side now. The second thing I did was actually kind of the bonus item, because when I finished the first item, when I finished the 12-pounders, I was kind of sick to death of doing artillery, and I already had my third piece, which I'll, spoiler alert, give you, tell you that is actually artillery as well. I'd actually built all the artillery at once. So when I actually finished painting the 12-pounders, I was kind of sick of artillery, even though I wanted to finish the second battery before for this slight update. So I kind of basically went, okay, I'm going to do my 73rd. So that's what I did. So let's bring these guys in. I had these guys basically just sitting in the box ready to go. They're basically the leftovers of my Perry's box set, fully utilised with the addition of 6 or 7 Warlord figures into 2 battalions, which I thought was really quite cool. And of course, obviously, an extra command section. But yeah, so finishing this particular unit means that I've actually done all the British contingent of my of the division that I'm kind of roughly basing my forces on, which of course is the 3rd. So let's give you guys a closer look at these guys. So here we have the sapper stand, and you can see that straight away we've got 2 Warlord guys at the back there, and again I shaved, actually pre-did it. I basically filed their bases down to make them stand at the same height as the Perry's guys, because the stand is a little bit thicker than the Perry's bases, so it makes them look as if they're quite a bit taller. And in reality they're actually not taller at all. Actually they're more or less spot on the same height. It's just that the Warlord guys are just a little tiny bit chunkier in the arms. But other than that, they kind of scale in perfectly with them, really. And of course the sapper there is a leftover guy from my one of my Hanoverian command squads from Warlord. I decided to, I had a spare sapper head for the British, so I slapped it on, and he made a great addition, because I basically more or less had run out of guys with the old shoulder, the shoulder batons on, and as you can see, like, these guys have actually got sort of roughly crudely made ones that are made out of a bit of plastic putty and painted on detail. But I think they came out looking really cool in the end. You can see the colours for these guys are basically more or less exactly the same as the 69th, apart from the fact that I think the green is just a little tiny bit darker, so I basically in my mix added a slightly darker green, and I think I nailed it in the end, just by fluke, really. So that's the sapper stand, or the grenadier stand. Next up we have a normal unit of 4 Perry's guys. Obviously just bog standard infantry, nothing super special. I think they came out pretty cool. And now the light. Again, we've got a couple of Warlord guys there in the front. You can see this guy here is actually just a little bit taller than this guy here, because I didn't shave his base down quite so much, but it kind of looks quite cool because he's just like slightly taller than the rest of the guys. And you can see I used one of the bandaged heads, but I decided to give this guy a head wound rather than an eye wound. And it just happens to be a place on his head where you can't really bandage it properly unless you kind of cover the eye. So that kind of covers that story. And of course this particular Warlord guy has actually got wings, and this particular guy has, but the other two are custom paint job stroke a little bit of plastic putty. But I think they look cool the same. So that's those guys. Next up, the Stand with Sergeant. Great Sergeant figure from the Plastic Command set that comes with the box. Got some hardcore sideburn action going on there. So that's the Sergeant stand. Drummer stand next. Again, kind of based on the 69th drummer, same sort of scheme, apart from the fact that again it's just that slightly darker green and a slightly different drum. So that is the drummer, and finally command stand. Really like this, the British command that come in the Perry's set. You can see that the colours, GMB flags, which I had to trim down because of the size of the Perry's flagpoles. Luckily, these particular ones trimmed down a lot better than some of my other ones, because I didn't have to cut so much of the Union Jack down. I managed to trim it all off the bottom, but it's annoying that the flags don't fit, because basically at their normal size they went down past his hand, so I had to trim off quite a chunk. But luckily it hasn't ruined the flags any, and I think they still look pretty darn cool as far as colour parties go. I particularly like the sort of the flap that the officer's got on his uniform there, and actually the ensigns have as well, which I decided to paint green, the same colour facing as their facings, same colour as their facings. I think it looks pretty cool. So that is the 73rd, which was the bonus item that I managed to do this particular update, and I was pretty chuffed with how they turned out in the end. So that's the 73rd. Let's get those guys out of the way now. And then I'll bring in my final item for this update. And here we go. So I did a battery of 12 pounders, and now we've got a battery of howitzers. So let's bring these guys into shot. Move the camera slightly. There we go. So yes, like I said, I kind of built these guys up at the same time as I originally built my 12 pounders. And I had them all ready to go. Because originally I was going to just do the 2 batteries of artillery for this update, and then things all went pear-shaped, and of course the video got delayed, and I thought, well, I don't want to do one when I'm like halfway through something. I'd rather just do it late and finish it. So that's what I did, and I finished these guys. I think these guys took me 3 days, roughly. 3 days worth of painting sessions, so probably about 4 hours or so, 4 or 5 hours. Finished them off probably about an hour ago now. Again, I decided to go with the same sort of formula. So we got the 4 crews and the 1 officer. And I'll bring you in on the closer officer first, or the officer's gun first. So the idea behind these guys is that I know you know, the battery was made up of a mixture of guns and not just one type of gun. And theoretically I could swap this around with my 6-pounder, so I could have 1 6-pounder and 1 howitzer per battery. But of course, if you're playing black powder rules, they only really account for the 1 type of gun. So I think what I'll do is I'll basically keep them as is while playing black powder. But if I use another set of rules, like I'm quite looking forward to getting hold of, I think is it Leon's Napoleonic rules, which when I watched his battle report I thought looked really cool. I mean, I don't know if his rules allow that, but I might have a sort of a mixed battery if and when I get hold of a copy of his rules. But yeah, again, beautiful models, especially the cannon from Victrix again. These of course are the 1815 ones. And we've got a slightly different position. Of course these bases are smaller than the 12-pounder bases. I had a little bit of trouble trying to squeeze the artillery crew on there, actually, to tell the truth. You can see that these guys are literally just about hanging off the stand. Ideally I kind of wanted them sort of stood here really, but obviously there's just not enough room, so I just kind of made it look as if they were turning and basically moving back to their positions before the cannon fires. And again we've got the officer over here giving the commands, or assisting with the commands. I think he came out pretty cool. Again, a great officer figure. Yeah, so that is the first howitzer. And the second one, again I kind of went for a slightly different base on these guys. I went for sort of like a slightly sort of overgrown bit of a sun-bleached meadow for these guys, with some sort of some wild shrubberies growing, the odd rock, but mostly kind of firm but slimy mud top. So you know, walking around in it gets your shoes dirty and your trousers dirty. And of course the cannon wheels get covered in mud, but you're not going to sink in it. It's kind of you know, wet on the surface kind of thing, as if it you know, recently rained, but not sodden, you could say. So that is the Victrix howitzer battery from the 1815 artillery set. Like I say, beautiful little guns, beautiful models, great figures. Again, like I said in my very first experience with them, a little bit annoying to put together. I think any multi-part kit, especially with figures, is a little bit annoying. But I got to admit, I put them together a lot easier this time. Although, again, like I say, it wasn't particularly what I would call enjoyment. So that is the end of this little update. other news, not too much other news this particular month, although I did have my a Kickstarter come, which was for a board game, which is called Core Space. And I wasn't 100% sure if anyone would kind of be interested in that, but I was kind of thinking of doing an unboxing, so I probably will, because it is a pretty amazing game. I'm not, I'm pretty fussy when it comes to games, and I am, as well as being a pretty hardcore sort of into military history and stuff, I also am a massive science fiction fan. So when a board game comes along that's more or less like a living RPG in board game form, involving blaster fights and swarms of invading robots and cool RPG elements to increase your, to make your sort of crew of salvagers improve after mission, and buying new gear and all this sort of stuff, and the ability to play it solo. This was basically, I had to basically jump in on it, and I'll just kind of put the main box up into view here. Like I say, I'll kind of try and do like an unboxing or something. It's quite a big box. It's got some beautiful artwork. Here it is. It's Core Space. Let's just try and zoom out. There we go. So it's Core Space. It's done by Battle Systems. The guys that do the card terrain. And like I say, it's a great looking game. I've watched many Beasts of War playthroughs and the playthroughs in their Kickstarter and all that sort of stuff. And the fact that it could be played solo was what basically triggered me into getting it. And like I say, I haven't really done too much with it. I've literally just opened it and checked that everything was there. But other than that, I haven't really properly had a chance to sit down and kind of breathe in the the newness of a new game, But of course, lots of miniatures in there as well, and obviously my Napoleonics are kind of my main focus at the moment, but it will sit in my mountain until I'm ready to start painting some of these guys, because they really are some pretty decent miniatures, and I'm kind of looking forward to not only painting them up, but also to actually to have a game or two of this, because I think it looks amazing. Anyway, like I say, if you're interested in that, I'll probably do like an unboxing, show you all the stuff that I got in my actual Kickstarter. So that's about it. Hopefully my next video will be more or less on schedule. Again, I haven't really decided what I'm going to be doing next, although I've got to admit, my last battalion of French infantry is harking to be done, so it could well be those guys. Like I said before, I'm kind of starting to wear a little low on my Napoleonic supplies now. I've basically got I've got a bunch of brigade commanders, a box of chasseurs de cheval, and that one French infantry battalion, and that's all my Napoleonics done. Although obviously my plans are not done, so whether I could actually gather the finances to be able to actually move on to my next chunk of Napoleonic plans, because I kind of really want to start concentrating on my Hanoverians this time. Obviously, I was kind of thinking how to do them actually, because the two battalions of Hanoverians I want to do are the ones from the again from the 3rd Division, and two of them are the Bremen and the Verdun, and I think it's the Bremen, are they're line infantry, but they're light line infantry, so they have those wings. And I'm pretty sure that if you buy either a box of Perrys or a box of Warlord, neither of those will have enough wings to actually cover a whole battalion of troops. And I think is it the Verdun? I think it's the Verdun. They more or less resemble British, normal British infantry, but have... No, actually, I think they all have wings, thinking about it. Yeah, so I was kind of thinking about perhaps getting a flank company box of Victrix, because obviously that's an entire box of guys with wings. But anyway, that's just waffling. I hope you enjoyed the update. Sorry it was late, and you know, drop in the comments if... I mean, I suppose it doesn't really matter actually, because I'm kind of going to do a sort of an unboxing video anyway for it. But obviously, if that's your cup of tea, if you're sort of like a little bit, you know, a little bit interested in seeing what's in core space, I'll do like an unboxing video and show you like the minis and stuff. I think it looks a really great game. And like I say, I am really looking forward to being able to eventually sit down and have some games. And other than that, I guess I'll catch you next time. I've been watching all your videos, commenting as much as I can, especially your lovely salute horde videos. It's always nice to get your hands on lots of new hoardings. Not that I can talk, because I've got obviously a box of about 40 or 50 miniatures to be added to my mountain inside core space. But anyway, until next time, I'll catch you later.